Alrighty, cool. So if people just want to let us know in the chat that you are here, good morning. I am so excited to. I feel like Lucy is my legal spirit animal slash like body double. I feel like our brands are so closely aligned, and everything that Lucy is about is exactly like I feel like our missions and core values are really closely aligned, just in terms of breaking down the accessibility, making big topics that can usually feel very scary way more approachable. Lucy was an online business owner who then felt that there wasn't clear information out there about law, legal protection, and actually the legal protection that lots of online businesses really need, and like things that are very actionable that they need to be able to put in place. And so she then set out to make legal and the legal world more accessible, more affordable, and way more approachable for entrepreneurs. And that's where Lucy Legal was created. So I am so excited to hand you over to Lucy, who's going to introduce herself, hold our hand, and like walk and talk us through Lucy Legal land for the next 60 minutes. We're then going to head into 30-minute networking session. Hi, Stacey. So if you've been to one of our Friday morning sessions before, after we get done with the webinar, we then just get stuck in and we run through what went well for us this week, because I feel like a small business owner, sometimes it's really easy to catastrophize, and actually closing off on a Friday morning with what went well for you this week is actually just really wholesome. Lucy will be sticking around as well, so if you've got some questions as we're going through, feel free to fire them in the chat. We'll do a Q&A at the end. But then again, if you're not brave enough to ask a question in front of the room, we can wait until networking and you can get some one-to-one time with Lucy as well. So I'm going to hand over to the lovely Lucy Legal.
Amazing. Thank you so much, firstly, for that fantastic introduction. It's really nice to come and chat to someone, as you say, who's got a group of people who have turned up firstly on a Friday, but also have aligned values that we all are here because we want to do business properly, which sadly is not always the case. So thrilled to see everybody. I know that you're all juggling client things as well. Really impressed that Stacey's there with a baby as well. Absolutely gorgeous. I hope I'm going to be impressed if you're juggling the two there. That's just next level impressive. I've just tipped my children out, but I'm going to be chatting to you today, and I've got a few slides just because I talk a lot, so it's to keep me on track, to keep you focused. If you haven't got a pen and paper yet, you might want to grab one or just pull up a Word document so you can keep notes of what we're doing. What I'm going to ask you first is if anybody's got any burning questions, if you're coming to this and saying, oh my goodness, I've been desperate to speak to Lucy, Rachel's been telling us about this, I really want to ask a question, can you pop that in the chat for me as soon as possible so that I know that we've got to prioritise that? It may be something, I hope, that I'll be covering anyway. So when we get to that point, I can make sure that I stop and ask you to tell me a bit more about that question. Or it might be something that I'm like, okay, this is actually outside the scope of what I was going to talk about, but let's chat about it at the end in detail. So if you've got any questions, then do let me know. And I'm going to start sharing my screen with you now, and hopefully you'll all see that. So just bear with me 1 second. Can you see my screen? Let me know.
Yes, we can.
Brilliant. Okay. And I want you to pop a word in the chat box. Let's get going. Let's get moving on this. I want this to be interactive and exciting for you. And yes, I did just talk about legal being exciting. I want to know what you think about legal and how you feel about the legal elements of running your business. You can put multiple words if you want, but one is just I'm all nervous. Okay. Nervous, scary, overwhelming. Okay. Nervous. Let's try and get rid of that. I mean, this is a question I ask all of the time, and these are often the things that people say to me. Confusing, we get a lot. Expensive is one we get a lot, and boring. So that might be one. Not prepared at all, not prepped. Okay. We're going to go through today, you'll be pleased to know, an overview of what you need to be aware of, because I think that that's what makes it feel overwhelming, what makes you feel nervous, and sort of what's scary is because you almost don't know what's coming, and like it could come from any angle, and are you prepared? Is anything protected? I think there's a lot to think about here. So I'm really happy that no one said boring, so thank you very much for not doing that. And it doesn't have to feel like that, okay? it can feel, when you do it properly, empowering, engaging, and exciting. And it's my job to show you how, because when you think about the legal elements of your business, you might be thinking, I don't even really think, like, I don't even know how it would work. I don't even know why you'd even need a lawyer on an ongoing basis. Like, surely you just get a contract and then you're protected. Like, that might be what you're thinking. Or you might be thinking, well, I don't need to get a trademark. Like, I don't need that because I'm just a small business owner. They might be things you're thinking. But when done properly, you can use the legal elements to really give you confidence that no matter what happens in your business, you're prepared, and that if you did get a refund request, you know how to handle it, and it's fine. And you can put that thing out into the world that you've been dreaming of sharing, because you know that it's rock solid and that people can't copy you, because you've got it protected and you've got that brand protection around it. So you can go out in a really confident way and say, this is what I'm doing. And you don't think, oh, if I share it, what if someone else shares it and is actually does a better version than me? Because sometimes that's what we feel a little bit too. Okay, so I know that there's a lot of emotion around legal, and that's what I wanted to chat through today. Now, we're going to cover a lot. I am going to make sure we stick on topic and you are supported with what you need, so you don't feel overwhelmed, you don't feel scared, and you don't feel nervous. But I also, this is a business webinar. I want to make sure that you feel like you can get legal to help you make money. I want you to know what you need to know. I'm not going to go into the nitty-gritty of data privacy legislation. You need to know about it, and I'm going to tell you that you need to know, but I'm not going to sort of start bringing up legal statutes or anything like that. I'm just going to say, this is something you need to know about, and this isn't really something you need to know about, okay? I think that's sometimes really helpful to know what to pick up and what to put down and when, depending on what stage of business you're at. We're also going to talk about how we've been supporting clients behind with big brands for brand protection, strategies that you need to use to help you be more successful in your business, and also just the next step I'd love for you to consider taking at the end of this. I want this to be really actionable for you. I don't want you to sit here for sort of half an hour, 45 minutes, and then be like, wow, we've done a lot. I don't know where to go next. Okay, that's not what I want for you. I want us to have something that we can really move forward with. Okay, first of all, I better tell you a bit more about me. I have two businesses. One of them is Lucy Legal, where we sell courses and templates, and I help entrepreneurs get the protection they need. And as we just were saying, I help you make your business elevated. I help you make it better. I don't know if anybody is joining us from the world of being an influencer. Pop in the comments. I'd love to know, what industry are you in, if you could let me know. And the reason I mention influencers is because that's kind of how this business started. I started a fitness account, which you're probably thinking, what, this is about legal? I started a fitness account on social media back in the day, where you could just take a photo of your breakfast and you'd get like 40 likes or something like that. And it got bigger and bigger, and it was adventures of me and my dog, and we got picked up by brands, and we started working with different brands. And I started working with like the likes of the North Face. They supported us and sponsored a big event I wanted to do, and Merrill. And I turn up at all these events, and people are like, Lucy, how on earth did you negotiate that? Like, how did you get how do you get your travel paid for? How did you do this? How did you get a room with your dog paid for overnight at this hotel before the event? And I was like, oh, I just like negotiated on the contract. And they were like, you negotiated the contract? And I was like, yeah, because like they send you a contract and obviously you'd negotiate. And they're like, well, no, obviously you just accept and say, thank you so much, brand, because you're working with me. And I was like, oh yeah, that's probably definitely what I should have been doing. But I hadn't been, because I was and still am a lawyer. And so people started asking me for help. And influencers were like, can you support me? Like, this brand hasn't paid. And can you do this? Can you help me negotiate this contract? And all of a sudden, Lucy Legal became this idea of like, actually, maybe I could help people support business owners with the legal things that they need. And so I started with like one template, and before I knew it, we had a whole template shop to be able to support coaches, to be able to support graphic designers, social media managers, you name it. We probably have a template for it now in our template shop. But that was how we started. And I'm just looking at what you're all doing. Okay. So Rachel does accounting and content creation. Samantha does accounting, amazing. Abigail does social media marketing. lodge amenities. Oh, that sounds nice. Yolanda, tell me a bit more about that in there. What does that involve you doing? We've got Brittany, who's doing research consulting on health and wellness. Okay, so there's lots of crossover there and what I've been doing previously too. A lot of my clients are in the health and wellness sector, Brittany, and that's such an important thing to be in, to help people just to feel better and remember why they're doing all this. And Chris is in graphic design, branding and marketing. So Chris, with your contracts and things that you do you find that you have an issue with like scope creep or project creep? Is that something that you have? Because I speak to a lot of graphic designers and people in the marketing space as well, and people are like, yeah, I want to do this project with you, and then the next thing they're like, oh no, something else is happening, and they get diverted away. So I'd love to know if that's ever been something that you've seen, Chris, where you were working on something and then people haven't been like keeping to the timescales, and does your contract help you keep to the timescales? I'd be interested to know about that. So I often chat to people on webinars and things like this to support you to get what you need in place and to get this sort of overview of, as I've mentioned. Because I'm not your lawyer, I can't give you legal advice, so it's just information today, but you can come to us and get support and become a client if you'd like to. We'd love to have you. I also have my own law firm, and we support clients who are based all over the world to run their businesses. We've won awards now, which is exciting, but still feels weird to share. And yeah, we don't really share things like our revenue of like what we're doing, because if I tell you what my revenue is, that's literally irrelevant to you. What I talk about is the fact that we don't get complaints. We haven't got refund requests. We have a really long wait list of people working with us. We've got, when people have asked us for help with their templates, we've sold thousands of templates, and we've probably had about 5 or 6 people come to us and ask for help, because they're that good, because we've got processes in place. So when you get them, they've got like guidance notes with them. They're the things that you care about. You care that perhaps like I can share that we've not lost a single tribunal case at the Intellectual Property Office yet, which is exciting. So we look at things in a slightly different way, and as I say on this slide, you can see we become brand guardians for you if we help you with your trademarks, which is something we do a lot of. So just picking up on what you're telling me about your businesses, so Jandy says she's got a newly formed company where we empower the local community by locally producing organic amenities range for the tourism industry, lotions and shampoos. Oh my goodness, that sounds incredible. That sounds really challenging as well, but really exciting, and obviously something that's, I guess, going to boom a lot more now the world is opening up. So that sounds really, really exciting, but lots of legal around that, around like what's in products, product returns, all of that kind of thing. Chris is saying absolutely, budgets often change, so people pull out projects. Oh no, if there's no contract involved, we definitely don't want no contract involved. We get lots of verbal agreements that come to nothing. Yeah, that's frustrating, isn't it? And I think what we have to do as well as business owners is really just go, this is my industry. Is there something I can do in this industry to make it better? Like, can I do something differently? Or do I always have to accept that this is the way it's done? I mean, you follow Rachel, so she's showing you there is a different way. And if you come into our world as well, you'll see that I'm doing legal in a totally different way to the way that most people do it. I'd encourage you always to sort of strive to find a different way of doing things that actually could change the industry. But sometimes people come to me and they say, Lucy, like I work with corporates and they just won't pay me for 60 days. Like it's 30 days till you can do this, and then you just don't get your payment for 60 days. That's something that just big corporates still do and still really hold the line on. And if you don't want to work, if you don't want to accept that, sometimes you sort of don't get paid. So there are things that we can change, and some things like that you can't. And I think with this, Chris, as well, with verbal agreements, I think it's just something like for you, being really protective of your time, or even automating some of the front end bits and conversations until people can really like just say, I'm not getting on the phone with people until they're really serious. And I know that at that point you're like, but then I can't build a relationship with people, and that's always a really tricky thing to juggle. So let's get into a little bit more about how legal can help you make money. Okay, I want to talk to you about like how a legal contract can help you make money. So a contract and having good terms and conditions can help you get your payments in quickly. Okay, and that's what we want. We want cash flow. We want to get that money into the business more quickly, and you do that with your contract. If you don't already, I want you to speak to your accountant, which I think will be Rachel, but I want you to say to your accountant, how can I restructure things? And it's about saying that you're going to deliver your payments and you're going to want to get paid in advance. Yeah, and that's something that you flip in, not with any big change, but just by saying, yeah, okay, as soon as you've paid our invoice, we'll begin work. And that means that you don't not get paid, because there's a situation, and it is getting worse at the moment, where people are not getting paid for their services. So I want you to make sure you've got a contract for your services, and we're going to talk about that in a little bit more detail shortly. But I want you to be really confident to get paid upfront. Can you let me know in the comments at the moment, in the chat box, do you get paid up front at the moment? Because a lot of people say they work really hard, they do their work, they issue their invoice, and then they're waiting to get paid. When you're waiting to get paid, firstly, it doesn't feel very nice. And secondly, you're adding on work when you're then having to chase payments. So that kind of thing doesn't have to happen. And all you literally need to do is put in your clauses in your contract and say, this is when you pay me. You pay me first. And you can say you pay me at the start and you pay me just before the work is delivered, or just after. Like, you can split payments if sometimes clients say, oh no, we can't pay all up front. But be confident in saying when you are going to get paid, okay? And I want you to make working with you more accessible by offering payment plans, by offering this opportunity to split out payments. And sometimes people say, well, if we do that, then does that not mean that people will not want to work with us? On the contrary, or not actually go on to pay us. On the contrary, people work with you, you show them how you can are integral to their business, and they want to carry on working with you. So say, for example, there's a big 6-month project that you maybe have in plan. You, instead of saying to people, right, you need to pay all of this in a lump sum, split it into payment plans and make it more accessible. Obviously, for people like Yolandi, where it's product based, it may not be possible to do that, but for other businesses, it definitely is possible. Let's have a look. Samantha's saying we get paid upfront for annual work, monthly payments, but for monthly clients, we get paid at the end of the work, but when the month's been done. If that works for you and there's no issue with it, fine. I would always say to people, have it the other way, get paid in front, because then there's not going to ever be an issue where you are the one that's chasing it. You're never going to have to think, what do I do? I've done all the work, they've gone out of business. And it's just a really small tweak that actually then makes you be able to prioritize better, because you can say, especially if you've got new work coming in, you can say, well, that person's paid, so they're at the top of my list because they've paid. And it really helps you manage workflow as well, because you can say, as soon as you've paid, you're next in my list, and people pay you pretty quickly when you start saying that to them. Abigail saying, always get paid up front. Amazing. Well done, Abigail. On the retainer, which covers the month ahead. Yeah, so your social media management, I think, did you say, Abigail? I would love to hear how you felt about the introduction of threads. Did people all of a sudden say, are you covering threads? Like, that's obviously social, isn't it? You'll just take on a whole new platform. Like, oh my goodness, like that's probably something for you to be like, right, now I have to update my terms again to cover whether I'm going to help you with threads. But that's something that people don't appreciate, how much work goes into it. Now, what about in your contract? Do you have clauses in your contract seeking interest, seeking payment of costs to recover unpaid debts, chargeback costs, and clauses on your actual invoices saying what the position is going to be and allowing you to charge interest? Okay, so you can put them in 2 places. You can put it in your contract and on your invoice. And if you want to see what that's going to look like, I've actually just popped a little bit of text here. What could it look like on my invoice, or what can it look like in the clause on the contract? Just kindly note, so we're being super polite, that payment is in advance of services being delivered. Super simple, super clear. Make sure you get paid. Kindly note the payment is due within 7 days of the date of this invoice. Once payment is received, service delivery will commence. Again, people then pay you promptly. And it's really polite and really nice. It's not like super corporate speak. And the reason I say this is because we're running businesses. This is the fundamental thing that I can tell you about when you've got a legal thing. One of the big things that they're either having a dispute with somebody about brand, or people are not getting paid, or there's been a payment and people are disputing about whether they've had their worth. So it's always around money and worth and payment. So this is why I'm starting today with this, because it's so important that you know your rights. And if you put that bit on your invoice about we will exercise our statutory right to claim interest, oh my goodness, people will pay you. You know, like if they've got invoices that they're thinking about delaying paying, they're going to pay you. It's a statutory right that everybody has anyway. But the fact that you've mentioned it makes people go, oh, I better pay that one because she could claim interest. Every supplier could claim interest on late debts, yeah, and unpaid debts. So it's something to be aware of. Other things we must be aware of. We've got here, we just talked on sales terms and conditions, privacy, brand protection, benefits of running your business as a limited company, and things to think about when working with others. Okay, this is what we're going to give a bit of an overview on now, and wrap up with a checklist at the end for sure. But let's start having a think about sales terms. Can I ask you, who's got either sales terms and conditions or a contract in their business? Can you let me know? You can just put a Y for yes or an N for no, or you can write the whole thing. It's not that long away. Just let me know, yes or no. Okay, so Samantha's got terms and conditions and a letter of engagement. I'm just reading back. Abigail said she only had one person on Threads. What a relief. And asking if you do it or saying they must do it. I'll have to pick that up after. Yolanda's working on having her terms. Okay. Abigail's got terms of the contract. And obviously there'll be people watching this back and you might be thinking, nope, I don't have mine, or you might not have one and not want to say it, and that's fine. I understand that. How would you feel if I said to you, if you don't tell people about their right to a refund, if you don't tell consumers about their right to a refund, they can request one from you for up to a year and a day later? Did you know that? So if you don't have terms which would include your refund policy, you may be inadvertently opening yourself up to having to give someone a refund just because you haven't done something properly on an administrative task, which is really going to be so annoying. So when COVID happened, and I'm still talking about that, but when COVID happened, we had lots of people come to us and people were asking for refunds, and there were lots of people asking for refunds for different reasons because services weren't happening and that kind of thing. And we had one person come to us, no, two people actually, it was two people came to us and said, can you help us? We've had this really weird thing come back that basically says we have to give them a refund, even though we've delivered the services on one of them. They've been working with this person for months, and they said, and we have to give a refund because we haven't provided with them with the terms of the contract. I was like, yeah, that is a rule in consumer legislation. You have to have given them the terms. You have to make this contract binding. You have to tell your clients what the rules are. You can't just say, this is the way we're doing things. You have to tell people, okay? So whether you're watching live now or you're watching on the replay, please be aware of your procedures in your business. And it's not just a case of having terms on your website and going, yeah, the terms are there, like hopefully they'll read them. Once someone's booked with you, however you do it, preferably in an automated way, because I don't want to give you an extra task to do, but once someone has booked and paid, you need to send them a copy of your terms or whatever, however they are. If it's a signed contract, that's probably pretty easy because they're signing the contract, so you just both got that signed version. But if it's something where it's just terms and conditions, you need to be sending them. And it can still be a link to what you've already got on your website. So it can still be, here's your receipt and here's the terms of the sale, and it just links back to the website. That's fine. But it needs to be something after that point of purchase where it's saying, these are our terms that are binding you, okay? That's where we are with this. Do let me know if you have any questions at this point on anything to do with sales terms and conditions, because I'm going to chat to you now a little bit about refund policies, because that's something that comes up a lot. But if anybody's got any questions, do let me know. And if you're just nodding along thinking, yeah, this makes sense, yeah, this makes sense, then please do let me know that too, because obviously I can't see everybody on the cameras at the moment. Okay. So in terms of refund policies, does anybody feel confident, and I'm not going to make you come on and explain it to everybody, but do you feel confident if you had a refund request, you would know how to handle it? how confident would you feel? Would you feel like, yeah, if we got a refund request, I would know pretty quickly whether they are entitled to one or not? Or if you got a refund request, would you probably stop, kind of keep refreshing your emails, but also not want to pick up your phone to see if you've got emails, and it'd just be really super awkward of like, oh my goodness, I don't know how to feel, because this feels really personal. Yandi's saying, in terms of product sales, would it be better to do terms and conditions as a contract with the lodges, or only terms and conditions with every sale? So in terms of, it depends how you've set up. I suppose I don't know if people are buying product within the lot. If everything would be covered in one, then you could do. But if you've got people who are just buying products, you're going to need product terms as well. Hopefully that answers that question, but happy to explore that more. Sorry, no, you're welcome, Andy. Abigail's saying no idea. Samantha's saying yes, but I've heard of refund requests for go cardless, and I don't understand how they can be done without requesting it from a business. Let's start with that. Let's start with refund requests when they go through PayPal and Stripe and go cardless and things. That's such a good question. Thank you very much, Anna. We see a lot of these, and we're seeing a lot more because of the way times are, and I am going to say it, people are doing things. People are still investing, by the way. My clients are still having biggest months ever, so people are still investing, the money is still moving, but there are other people who are the other different things saying, actually, I wasn't happy with that, and I do want to try and get money back there, so that there's a bit of both happening. Go cardless are renowned for refunding straight away for the consumer. They're really consumer facing. I've never heard that a service provider has won from them. I don't know, Rachel might have more experience, even more than we have for this. Rachel, do you have? She's shaking her head. I've never heard that anybody's won on those. I cannot give you advice, but when I give recommendations to my clients, I tell them not to use Go Cardless because of that reason. I also tell them, if they can, not to utilize PayPal and Stripe after a certain point with a client. And the reason for that is because if there is a chargeback, it does that they can get their money straight away. And this is why legal is so important, because it empowers you in your finances. And so you can really understand what might happen. So if you are aware that if you use Stripe or Go Cardless or PayPal, that somebody may be able to just make a request for a refund, and notwithstanding the position on the legal position, they may get given the refund, or that money may come away from your business, come from your Stripe account, be deducted, put you in arrears in that account. You then know, okay, hang on a second, I need to keep a spare pot of money here. I might get one refund request each quarter or every 6 months. I charge £500 for my services, so I'm going to keep £500 in a pot, so I've got it saved, so I can just whiz it over in case something happens. I don't want to have spent the money. The first person I ever helped with a refund request through the business was in tears because she'd spent all of the money. And she said, but I can't give them a refund request. Even if I wanted to, I can't, because I just don't have the money here to give them. And what I was saying, that you'll see if you go back, if you watch this again, you'll see that one of the things I put on the slides, in fact, I'm just going to whiz back, but one of the things I popped was this bit in box 3 there about recovering chargeback costs, because that is a big deal, that if you are going to get invoiced, if you're going to get penalties, that you can say to people, I'm going to try and recover that back from you if we lose. And it takes a lot of time and energy having to submit evidence. And it's almost like they've become a little bit like a court, like the small claims court, by making decisions as to whether things have happened or not. And they're not fair. PayPal swing around about. They sometimes are consumer facing. And more recently, I've seen, maybe it's because we've been helping with them, but lots of our clients have won on requests like that. But they often are quite client facing. Stripe always used to give results for service providers. And so what I'm talking about here is if basically someone asks for a refund and they've paid through Stripe say yes or no that you can have your money back. Stripe used to be always service provider, but we've seen a few where they've actually found in favor of the clients, which is really annoying if you've delivered the services. So this ties in with really good client care. And you might think, yeah, obviously, do the job properly. I'm not talking about doing the job properly. I'm talking about having touch points through your service delivery where you're getting the client to actively tell you that they're happy with your service. So it may be just after your first session, you write to them and you say, So great to meet you. I really hope you enjoyed the session. Open a question for them to invite and say what they thought. So say, did you enjoy it? Is there anything more I can support you with now? Normally your clients probably would beat you to it and say, oh my goodness, that session was amazing, thank you so much. And that's brilliant, you've got that evidence. Keep that momentum up. After the first month, check in again. You can automate all of this. How are you doing? Can you help anymore? Can you get some more feedback from them? 3 months in, if it's a 6-month offering, can you get some feedback again at the 3-month point, at the 6-month point, annually? Any feedback you can get that's written from them. The more you automate it, the better you have to be at writing to make it feel really engaging. So it might be that you've got clients, Samantha, it might be that you've got people that you do work with and you've got those meetings. So after the meeting, you're not just sending them the notes of the meeting, you're actively trying to get them to confirm to you in writing that they're happy with your service. Because if you've got that, it's going to be a lot harder for them to turn around and say, you were rubbish from the start. Like, I didn't like it from the start, because you say, well, after the first session, you were happy. And after the first month, you said, this is the best you've ever done. And everything's going wonderfully. Do you know what I mean? So it's about looking after your clients. And that's how we should be doing business anyway, isn't it? There's stats which people will share with you about how it's so much easier to look after the clients we've got than to chase after new ones. I think there's a lot to be said in that. I think that that's what we should be thinking about. How can we make sure these clients love us, be our biggest cheerleader, and they then will promote us and the work we're doing, and then we don't sort of have to market as hard because we're just looking after the clients we've got. Okay, so refund policies, in a nutshell, it depends on who they are, what they're purchasing, when they're purchasing, why they're asking for a refund, and how they're paid. So the who, what, when, where, why, and how questions are things that you need to be asking yourself in terms of refunds. And that's because it depends if they're a consumer or a business owner. Because if someone's a consumer, they've got a lot more rights than if they're a business owner. That this whole 14-day period to change your mind, that applies if you're a consumer, but it doesn't if you're a business owner. Similarly, if you purchase online, that applies. But if someone meets you at an event and you purchase something in person, it doesn't apply. They don't have that right to change their mind, because it's all about the distance selling regulations. So not seeing something and not being with someone in person to make that decision. So you get extra protections, or you don't. It depends when people ask you for a refund. That thing that we were just saying before about the year and a day, that just applies to the administration side. But let me ask you the question. How long do you think someone can ask you for a refund? So if you've got a contract with someone, how long do they have to ask you for a refund? Do you know? So do they have to ask you for a refund within like the first month, within a year? Is it longer than a year? How long do they have to ask you for a refund? I would be interested to see if anybody knows the answer to that question. And this is going to tie in again with insurance obligations. We're talking about all the fun things today, aren't we? Finance, legal, insurance, because your insurance will require you to keep details of your clients and the work that you're doing for that length of time. So no one's guessing. So I'm going to tell you, in a contract, people can ask you for a refund for up to 6 years. 6 years. 6 years you might have people coming back to you. So you've got to make sure, for a start, that you've got all your notes sorted and you've got everything properly in order. How the girl's going, oh my goodness. And that you are prepared. Because what if someone does come back to you, and I don't know who is watching as well on the recording, but perhaps you might be a business coach or a coach delivering transformation, or who was it earlier that was saying that they do wellness things? I've totally forgotten. Oh, it was Brittany. Brittany, you were saying you did research consultancy in health and wellness. Someone might come back to Brittany and say, no, 4 years down the line, I don't feel that much healthier. I don't feel better in myself. My wellness is not improved. I'm going to blame Brittany. And Brittany's like, hang on a second. We worked together 4 years ago. Whoa. Who's this person? And you've got to be prepared. So we've got to know about that. We've got to know, okay, so that could happen. I need to just make sure I protect myself, make sure I'm doing what Lucy said by when I finish with a client, having a really great wrap up so that I can prove that at the end they were really happy with what happened. And then we're not just throwing out our services and making sure actually, yeah, these were really good. I'm really pleased with what I delivered there, and being really confident with what you're doing. So having good set of service terms and conditions is key. Okay, on here we've got data protection. I am not going to go into the details of data protection because it's a really long webinar by itself. But I really hope you know what I mean when I say GDPR, the General Data Protection Regulations. You have to protect people's data. And to be honest, it's as simple as that. We don't have to go into the nitty-gritty, because all you need to know is you've got to protect people's data. So that means that when they give you any form of information, such as name, email address and things, don't sell it unless you've got permission. Everything you would do with someone's data, you can do it as long as you've got consent. So if you wanted to sell it, if you've got consent, you can sell it. Let's not get into the intricacies of whether that's a good thing to do or not today. But if you want to handle it in a certain way, you get people's consent. So when you're getting it from them, don't harvest it from them. Don't ever guess their email address or go on the website and get their email address from things. Try not to pre-populate things from places. Get them to give you the information and consent. And consent is your main thing there. So that's what you need. Don't worry too much about data. It's a huge thing, and people think, oh God, like, how will I do it? Keep it safely. Invest a little bit into a good set of software here that's going to like have good firewalls and protect people's data, but just be aware you've got to protect people's data. Let's talk a little bit about brand protection. Does anybody here have a trademark? I would be interested to know. Do you have a trademark? Rachel's saying yes. Do you have a trademark? And if you don't have a trademark, would you like a trademark? Samantha's saying no, she doesn't have one. And you may be saying you've got ones personally, or it may be something that you have for your brand. Brittany's saying yes. Oh, tell us about yours, Brittany, what you have. And Rachel, tell us which ones you have, Rachel. And who else was saying? Just as you answered too fast and I've lost it. Sandra's saying no, Brittany's saying yes. Abigail, no, but something I'd like to look into with my wee brand. Oh, exciting. Samantha, what's the advantage? Okay, let's have a look. Okay, who is Kylie? If I say to you, who's Kylie? Who do you think of? Brittany says, sorry, yeah, that's in regards to, oh, Brittany wants one. Oh, Yolandi wants one as well. Okay, this is good. Rachel says, I have Strive X and accounting. Of course you do. Good. I'm really pleased that is the way, because it's it would be a bit awkward if you're not. Kylie, and Kylie's saying, Abigail's saying Kylie Jenner. So when I've said, who's Kylie? Abigail, Kylie Minogue. She's Team Minogue this morning. Love it, love it. Rachel's Team Minogue. I am as well. This is the part where I want to play some songs. We've probably not got time to start dancing around the kitchen right now. I know it's a Friday, but we've got a couple for Minogue and a couple for Jenna. Did you know that Kylie Jenner owns 179 trademarks, including one for her hair? And Kim Kardashian West owns over 200, I think. Some more pending when I was just updating this week. I always have to, this is the slide where I always have to update as well. The Jenners and the Kardashians don't know how much work they're creating for me. Always have to add in extra work when I'm talking about this, because they just keep growing their brand. And the interesting thing is, Kylie versus Kylie was one of the huge trademark battles that happened, because if you don't know, and I appreciate people may not know, Kylie Jenner is the person there with the brown hair. Kylie Minogue is the person with the blonde hair there. Ms. Minogue is a global singer. You may know her, depending on your age, from Neighbours days. She started off doing acting, singing worldwide. She's Australian but known worldwide. Huge brand. Luckily for her legal team protected Kylie, and Kylie.com came in 1996, before Ms. Jenner, who's the person with the brown hair, was even born in 96. And Kylie Jenner said, well, okay, yeah, you're Kylie, you might have perfume and you might have done like a few songs, but like, I'm Kylie. If people ask the question, who's Kylie, people say me, and we've just proven that they don't necessarily. But she said, I'm the person that's got the social media following. I've got millions of people who follow me globally. I'm the person that people want to know about, that people think of as Kylie. And this is the point where trademark law came in and said, well, unfortunately, someone already has brand Kylie registered, and therefore, unless they want to share with you and do what's called coexist, you have to cease and desist. And Kylie's team had got everything covered. They'd got makeup, they'd got perfume, they'd got the hair classes. So you register a trademark in one of 45 classes, no matter where in the world you are, that's how it works. And you have to select classes, and they'd got all of those classes, and they'd got the name in any event. So they couldn't, she said, well, people will not understand if it's Kylie or Kylie. People can't make a distinction. It's exactly the same word. So then ensued a really long and costly trademark battle where they said, look, Kylie Minogue is a well-known, she's humanitarian, she just thinks she's had breast cancer, so a breast cancer activist. Whereas they were really mean about Kylie Jenner and called her like I think they didn't call her Z-list, but they said she was just a TV personality. I think they may have said B-list, but it was not very, the judge was really scathing for Kylie Jenner. But it hasn't stopped her, because she's managed to coexist, because she's paid a lot of money to do so, okay? So what we need to take from this is, if we don't have our brand protected, there's a potential that someone could stop us from using the name. And that's really important. So here, I've just shared some logos for educational purposes only, shared their logos of companies where we have fought and won for clients recently in applications they've made. Now, don't worry, my clients have not tried to register Tommy Hilfiger. They didn't try to register John Lewis. They've trademarked things where those brands have all said cease and desist. And they came to us and we were managing it, and we said, look, this may happen because they've got similar registrations. I won't tell you, well, you can probably guess because it feeds into how they are as brands. But some of these brands are really great to work with their legal teams. Some of these brands were sent letters immediately saying, you filed a trademark application, immediately close down your company, do not trade with the name, change everything, cease and desist, this is an emergency kind of behavior. If you don't have a trademark, I can't stress how important it is that you need to get one as soon as possible. And the reason for that is because if you don't get one, someone else may get there first. And if you're building a brand without a trademark, you're building it on borrowed time. Because if someone gets there first, they can say to you, cease and desist. And yes, you do in some parts of the world, in the UK this applies, have unregistered rights, but they're really hard to prove because obviously you can register. So people say, well, yeah, you have used it before, but the way to do this is to register your rights. So if you have an idea and you know you've got a brand name or a tagline or something like that, you know that you can trademark your business name, a program name, an offering name, a tagline, so a selection of words that sort of describe what you do. You can trademark your logo. Your logo and your name are two totally separate applications, okay? And you need to consider doing this because we regularly get people call us who have received cease and desist, and it says that they go, cease and desist from trading. We've seen you trading using this name, and we own the trademark, and they give their trademark reference number, and the people are in tears, and they're like, but Lucy, I've got a shop, I've got my name above the shop, the name of the shop, it's on the till, it's on the bags, it's on the website, it's on every single website project, every URL, or it's on every podcast. They say it on the start of every podcast, on every YouTube episode. If, for example, you are an influencer or you work with other brands or you do any collaborations, you're holding yourself out. You may be asked to contractually sign to say that you have got rights and you have got IP rights. Imagine if the brand you're working with or the company, say you're doing a collaboration with another company, say it might be accountants and legal or marketing or whoever else you're doing it with, and someone sees you doing that collaboration because you're raising your profile of your business, and they go, oh, hang on a second, that's our IP, and they go to that person you're working with and say, we're suing you as well. We're suing you, brand. We're suing you, the person that you're collaborating with. It's going to feel super awkward when all you need to do is a really easy application to the trademark office yourself, okay? Brittany's asking, how can you or how long can you use trademark to indicate intention before starting or submitting a trademark application? Could this be risky? Really great question, Brittany. So lots of people don't know. Brittany obviously does because she's asking this, but in case you don't know, lots of people don't know that if you use TM, that doesn't mean anything apart from what Brittany's saying, this intention to use. The registered trademark symbol, can you see just at the top here where it says Lucy Legal and then register, the R in the circle, that's the official one. TM doesn't mean anything. So TM doesn't mean that you've got any protection. And as Brittany correctly says, you can put it on things if you've got an intention to use it. And there's no deadline on that, Brittany, because what a lot of people don't understand is what I've just explained. And so for a lot of brands, they actually use TM always, even when they've got the registration. So you may see brands, and you'll start looking now, because like if you're anything like me, you'll like go, you'll see it everywhere. You'll see trademarks, the R in the circle, the TM, and you may, sometimes people haven't got trademarks. So I won't tell you which one of these, but there's a really big brand that's against one of these that doesn't have the trademark because they lost. We won against them, just putting that in, but they lost, so they just stay as TM, and they've managed to coexist to stay in a certain thing, but they weren't allowed to get the registered rights for it. But you only can have the registered rights if you properly and officially register. So the answer to that question is no, you don't. Could it be risky? Well, it's suggesting, it's putting that name out there, isn't it? As soon as you put that name into the public space, if it's not registered, someone else could use it. So it's worthwhile doing the checks and making sure that it is protected. Copyright, just because they go hand in hand, is the right to be copied. So you own, as the creator, the rights in everything you create, and you own the right to be copied. You can give that right away to people, but you probably won't. And a reason I put here, it's fundamental for the way that you run your business, is because you know that you own everything you create, and you can protect that with a trademark, but you all own it automatically. So you don't have to go off and protect. Sometimes people are like, I don't understand, is it my name, or is it like my process, or like my framework? What is that I protect? You own your frameworks, your ideas, the way you do things. And you can protect them with a trademark, like the name of it, but the actual process of it you own automatically. So you don't have to register it. In the UK, different rules apply for different countries, and we can cover those off, but you can see, you can just Google copyright laws and see whether you own it as a matter of course or not. So that's why it could be risky. It's important to know this when you work with freelancers, really important, because go to that fundamental position of, I'm the creator, I own it. Your VA is the creator, if they, the creator and owner, if they create it. Anybody that creates something for you when they work with you in your business, your graphic designer, so Chris owns the IP in everything he creates. So he knows he must give a clause in his contract to pass that IP on to other people. And if he doesn't do that, he would end up owning everybody's IP. But he could be really savvy here and ensure that the rights only transfer when he's been paid. Okay, so really key thing when you're working with freelancers is you are really clear that if they're working for you in your business, you need contracts that cover this off. And if you are working for other people, you own all the rights to it until you give them to them. It's also great to know that this is an asset. Can you license what you're doing? Can you white label your products? Can you give your products away? Is this something that you could sell because you own the rights to it? So definitely a topic again for something else, for another training, but licensing is a huge bit all by itself. 3 things that successful business owners do that I want you to be doing now. Brand protection. I really want you to ensure your brand is protected, and we've just covered that off in a lot. We've also covered off 3, but I want to talk about number 2 for a second. Limited company status. A lot of our clients come to us and they say, I don't really understand. Do I need to be limited or not? And now Rachel will probably give you a slightly different view to me, but as a lawyer, let me just tell you, limited liability means your liability, your exposure, the risks around being sued are limited or contained within the limited company. if you operate out of one. Now, there are tax things to consider here as to whether there's a threshold which you might want to wait until you reach till you get there. It's around the £50,000 mark. Speak to your accountant, Rachel, about this, or whoever your accountant is, but speak to someone about this, what the best fit is for you. But what you need to know as a business owner is that if you are operating as a sole trader, not as a limited company, you may be personally liable for the debts or any claims that arise out of the work that you're doing. The response at this point is, but I've got insurance. Great, you may well have insurance, but what if you've not paid the premium? What if there's a problem with the insurance and they don't pay? What if you have buried your head in the sand a little bit and you haven't done what you said you were meant to do, or you haven't managed it, or you haven't passed the claim to your insurers early enough and they say they're declining cover because you tried to handle it yourself, or you did offer them a refund because you felt like, oh, I did make a mistake here, so I did give a refund. And it may be in some sectors that it doesn't matter too much. So say, for example, and this isn't being derogatory, but if you're selling cards on Etsy or something like that, amazing. Selling products, amazing, that people like might have a card or something like that. The reason I say this is because the liability relating to a card sale for a wedding card, for example, might be relatively low. But if you are doing like well-being, like Brittany's doing, or you're a personal trainer, or you're a makeup artist, or you do lashes for somebody, or you're doing anything which involves health, and you injure someone, the liability there could be in the millions. So it may be a huge liability that you might want to protect. And essentially what happens is when you're a limited company, it's known as the corporate veil, but let's not get too into this, but there's a veil that comes down which stands between you and your company. You want that protective veil. So that's what I'm saying is successful business owners set their business up in a way that they are protected. So they're like, I want this veil to come down. I'm going to stand behind it and be protected. Yes, okay, I understand that as a result, I'm going to have to pay for my business accounts, and it's going to be 3 times more expensive than solo trader accounts, and I know I've got to do some extra filings at Companies House, whatever it might be, but that's the offset for knowing that you're protected in the work that you do. Okay, speak to people to find out what is the best option for you, but it's definitely something I want to be on your radar. Okay, this, and with buying a, hold on, let me just, I think I list a bit. Oh yeah, okay, this, and with buying a house in the last year with my partner is the reason I contact Rachel to help my limited company. Yeah, it's this kind of thing. It also, ironically, use the phrase, it reaps dividends, it brings in dividends, but that's not kind of what I mean, but it works because people want to work with you because they think of limited companies as being more legitimate. That's not necessarily the case. You could still have the same person operating as a solo trader, not knowing what they're doing, and operating as a limited company, not knowing what they're doing, but it is worthwhile exploring this. So if you're not a limited company, pop it on your to-do list to just find out a bit more information, and your accountant is a great place to start. It might be that it's not the right thing for you, or it might be that it's not the right thing now, and that you will decide when you get to a certain revenue threshold that you will do it. But just from a legal point of view, when we give advice to clients, we're often suggesting it's a good thing for them to do to protect themselves. But I can't give you advice for your specific circumstances because obviously I don't know, but do put that on your list of things to look at. I also want you to look at your contracts now as a way of giving you boundaries. Try not to think of them as super scary, super confusing. If your contract is confusing, you need a new one, because it should be something that you can understand easily yourself and explain to other people. And if you don't feel that you can, then you're doing a bit of a disservice to your clients by giving it to them and expecting them to understand it. You need to be really super clear with your contracts and know that you understand them. And you want to see them as being boundaries. That's all it is. All it's doing is saying, I'm going to deliver the work on these days, and you're going to pay me at this point. And it says things like, you can contact me between 9 and 5, Monday to Thursday, and I'll be available for you. That's what goes into your contract. That's what gives you boundaries. That's what gives you this life that you love, that you can live a life on your own terms, because it's in your contract. And the successful business owners that I work with enforce those. They don't then reply out of office when they're out of office. They don't keep checking their phone. They can go and do things because they're not meant to be working. They've got these service level agreements and they stick to them. Yes, okay, most of our clients do over deliver and they really do give a great level of service. And if something comes in, they will help their clients, of course. I'm not talking about that, but I'm saying that they've got these boundaries and they're really clear about how people can communicate with them and how they're going to be looked after. And when you look at that process of, well, how will I look after my clients? That's pretty key, and it goes into your contracts, okay? So your checklist before we finish, getting the basics right. So understanding those refunds, GDPR, getting that solid contract, thinking about your brand protection, preparation for growth and scaling. So thinking about getting all of this in place so you can scale your business, and having a fixed marketer review. So that's one we didn't touch on today too much, but it's super quick in the sense that, I'm really sorry to say, legal is not one and done. You don't do it at the start and it's finished. But the good thing about that is if you didn't do it at the start, you've not missed the boat. You want to be attaching legal to something you do regularly. So probably accounts. So if you look at your accounts every quarter, if you don't, start doing that, at least. If you're doing something quarterly, like your accounts, and you're looking at them, then just tag legal onto it as well. And just when it comes up, be like, right, oh, brilliant, I haven't had any legal issues come up, great. Or it might be a case of like, oh no, Sarah said she didn't understand clause 2 when I sent the contract, right? What was clause 2? Let me see, is that clear? Yeah, it was clear, it was just Sarah's issue. Or, okay, I've had no issues, no complaints, no refund requests, but I don't have my trademark yet. So it's come up to a quarter and I said I was going to look at legal at the end of the quarter. So I'm going to think about what I need to do for legal. Or next quarter, I'm going to launch a membership. I'm going to need some membership terms or something like that. Okay, so it's about having this marker in place where we look at what we've done and we look to the future and we say, I'm going to need some legal protection for that. Now, I know that we've covered loads here, and I know that there's things that we haven't covered. We are running a workshop on trademarks on Tuesday. So you will get some information about the trademark workshop in an email after this talk. So I'm not going to mention about it too much, but if you want a trademark and you haven't got one yet, jump on this. Rachel's got a link as well that she'll share by email, and you're going to get a discounted rate for the tickets. I think they're £49 now, but if you put it back through Rachel, you get it for £29. So definitely do that. And say hello. Please follow me. This is the point where I should have said at the start to put it on Instagram and say hi and wave and tell people you've been following along and watching this training. But if you haven't done that yet, then please do tell me. This is where you can find me on Instagram and our website and emails and things. So I appreciate that's a lot. And I appreciate there's loads to think about and probably lots that we haven't talked about that you've possibly got more questions on now. So if you have any questions, feel free to pop them in the comments.